federal laws. So without further ado, Gena Richardson.
Okay, if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to kind of stand
I
over
try to
here.
cut it as
Can
much,
everyone
but
see, hear, smell, everything?
this
Alright,
thing.
so let me get started. So again, my name is Gena Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of the ARC of Alabama. Last night I was actually in Jackson, Alabama doing a presentation for Jackson Rotary Public Citizen of the Year. So if I fall over, I'm probably going on lack of sleep. But thank you guys for having me. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I'm a member of the ARC of Alabama. Okay, so we are the state level advocacy group for people that have intellectual and developmental disabilities in Alabama. An intellectual disability is characterized by significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior, which covers both everyday and practical skills. This disability must originate before the age of 18. Intellectual functioning, also called intelligence, refers to general mental capacities such as learning, reasoning, problem solving, and so on. This is diagnosed through an IQ test. So how do people get connected to services in Alabama through us and local chapters? They go on what's called criticality. So you have this kind of scale, and if certain needs are more critical than others. If we have a waiting list in Alabama for people to get on services, it is almost 4,000 people long. So we have literally a lot of people in the state that are waiting to get on services and receive the supports that they need. So one question I have right here is, how would this make you feel as a person if you were sitting somewhere waiting to get services? People with intellectual disabilities are what's called mentally blank. Okay, so for those of you that do not know, intellectual disability is basically the F-bomb of our community. So these are people that are struggling to be breadwinners, caregivers, all across the board to try to help their kids. So again, if you're one of those parents waiting for services, how would you feel? Okay, so what? Examples of developmental disabilities include autism, behavior disorders, brain injury, on down to Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome. This is my friend Jane. Jane here has Down syndrome. Jane is one of the most amazing people that you'll ever have the opportunity to meet. And for those of you that knew Steve James, this is probably Steve James' female version right here. She's never met a stranger. Every time you go in and talk to her, she's absolutely lovely. And she's just one of these people that radiates with that inner light. So I think a lot of Jane. Jane was my ABWA sponsor a few weeks ago. Okay, so what? Developmental disability is a diverse group of chronic conditions that are due to mental or physical, that cause and do mental and physical impairments. Developmental disabilities cause individuals difficulties in so many different areas in life. This is my friend Toki. He goes to the ARC of Clark County, and Toki's the kind of person that can pretty much talk you into anything. So when I was over the ARC of Clark County, Toki would pretty much come into my office at least once a week and talk me into anything that was in my hand. So right here, you see my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, which my CFO drove an hour and 45 minutes back from Mobile to bring to me in a cooler. So when Toki walked in, I gave Toki the iced coffee and my muffin. Okay, and I also wanted to say that 1 in 6 children, approximately 15%, are currently being diagnosed with developmental disabilities. Okay, so you have the ARC of Alabama, you have the ARC of the United States, you have the ARC of Clark County, and you have Montgomery ARC. So the ARC family is split up into 3 levels here in the country. The ARC of the Alabama is affiliated with the ARC of the United States, which is one of the largest actually the largest organization in the United States devoted solely to working on behalf of people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. We fully embrace all the position statements of the ARC of the United States. Right here, this is Mr. Big Deal right here in this picture. This is Peter Burns. He is the CEO of the ARC of the United States. He flies all across the country, visiting local chapters, state chapters, advocating. I'll actually see him next week in D.C. He's one of the most passionate advocates that you'll ever meet. Okay, so what about local chapters? This is a picture of the ARC of Clark County right here, and this is a cooking class. The ARC of Alabama provides supports, advocacy services, assistance, whatever they need to 29 chapters across Alabama. So within the next 8 weeks, I will be visiting all 29 chapters in Alabama. They do all different kinds of things. They have a whole continuum of services from early intervention with infants and toddlers on down to geriatrics that live in group homes. No chapter in Alabama is exactly alike. Okay, so where are all these chapters located that I'm going to visit? You see that they're primarily located in the north part of the state, and that is because the ARC movement kind of started up there in the north part of the state. We're looking at different, opportunities and expansion into different parts of Alabama, but you see down here in this part, there's really not a lot of chapters. There is Geneva County, which is gray down here. There's a lot of interesting things that you'll see when you go into these programs. A lot of good services and supports. My county that I came from before joining the ARC of Alabama was Clark County. So right down there, and in Alabama, the providers of services are split up into different regions under the Intellectual Disability, or DD, division of the Department of Mental Health. So you have 5 divisions, regions 1 through 5. You see region 1 is primarily North Alabama. And I do apologize because I know you guys can't see the small print. Alright, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ARC of Clark County. The ARC of Clark County was founded about 55 years ago. Good group of people, as we would say down there, home people. We provided, we had 2 group homes, we had a supported employment program, we had a great, actually, supported employment program, and we expanded into 4 counties right before I got there, and we added 1 additional program that could have pulled in about $37,000 if we had been able to kind of get things up and running. Unfortunately, before I took this position, we didn't quite get there, but they're continuing on. So it's very exciting. Had about approximately 100 staff members, about 55 people that we provided services and supports to. It was the largest nonprofit employer in Clark County, and also we did a lot of work with outside of Clark County. So picture up here, see this right here. This was one day we had our annual meeting, and we actually got together and did a cheer. So it was kind of interesting. The staff did it, so everybody really enjoyed it. They talked me into it. I didn't particularly care to do it, but I love them, so I did it. This right here, as some of you may or may not know, Kim Nelson. She's a really, really good friend of mine. She is a Rotarian and over at Jackson Interact Club. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful young woman. Over here, this picture right here is can't see the pom-pom, but the current executive director, Rosa Jackson. And we did this to kind of encourage people that, to get out and meet their personal outcomes, do what they need to do, go on and do some really great things. So we tell them at the next annual meeting if they could kind of follow suit that we do something else. This right here is a picture of us during CQL accreditation. We were actually, the ARC of Clark County was the first chapter of the ARC in Alabama to be accredited by CQL, which CQL is like the top accrediting body for providing services and supports in the United States. So we were excited when they came in and they recertified us for 4 more years. So there's a picture of us with several people from CQL, and we threw a big Mardi Gras party. All right, so of course the numbers of people in the room will probably ask this: how are local chapters primarily funded? They get a small portion of their funding through donations, fundraising. Larger chapters, of course, can do fundraising endeavors, and they do a really, really great job. Most of these programs have some kind of working relationship with Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services, Department of Mental Health. However, most of them are kind of primarily funded through Department of Mental Health through one particular fund and Medicaid. And it's called Home and Community-Based Waiver Services, and there are actually several in Alabama. I know you all, some of you probably like acronyms, I personally do, but primarily through the ID waiver. So it's unfortunately in Alabama, not everything is funded as it should be. And when they start cutting funds through the, here in Montgomery, then the local chapters have to suffer. So one of my responsibilities is to kind of advocate for them to get additional funding and for policies in the state that are developmentally appropriate for our people. All service provided by the Arc of Alabama. If you guys can see that picture, you probably recognize the Sunset Rotary Club. We, at the Arc of Alabama, put on the annual Alabama Disability Conference. This year we had over 350 people. Governor Ivey opened it. We had several commissioners, Fitzgerald, Washington. So this is a conference here in Alabama that people come from all over the state, actually outside of Alabama, to learn more about disability advocacy, policy, that kind of thing. When Sunset did come out and volunteer, they did an absolutely fantastic job. So this is one thing that we do to kind of give back to the community. All right, so at the Disability Conference, we had two commissioners, Bashir and Berdishaw, and they got up on the stage after Governor Ivey. So it was a really exciting opportunity for them to get up and speak and say, this is what we've got going on here in Alabama, and thank you for your services. One of my big things is at the head table, the governor's table, I absolutely wanted what we call self-advocates, which are people that, receive services and supports here in Alabama. So I was really big on wanting them at Governor Ivey's table. We had three, and they absolutely loved it. And of course, one of them was my lovely friend, Jane. All right, so right here, again, Jane, she's always winning some kind of award or doing something really awesome. So I had to throw a picture of her in there. And right here is Tom Holmes. He's running for a political office down in Mobile. Hopefully he'll be back here in Montgomery. He was one of the previous executive directors of the Arc of Alabama and a wonderful friend of mine. All right, so we also had Jonathan Lucas at our conference. And I'm not going to speak so much about what Jonathan does with the Arc of the United States. He's the director of the Arc of Work. He does all these wonderful things, applies across the country. But because I'm talking to a wonderful group of Rotarians, I wanted to mention that I called Jonathan in D.C. when we started first planning our conference, and I said, Jonathan, it's all about service above self. Can you come on down to Alabama? So he was one of our great speakers. And let me say, he gave wonderful plugs to Rotary, the things that Rotary does here, in the state of Alabama nationally. So we were super excited to have him at the conference. So there's a picture of him, and he had more Rotary pins on him than I think any speaker I've ever seen that day. So he holds executive leadership roles in Rotary. He's done a lot of wonderful things, and you see down here at the bottom, he was elected to serve as district governor, and he will probably be the youngest person in the world that's ever held that position. Great guy. So more pictures. This is a picture of Miss Sissy. She was self-advocate of the year for 2018. Self-advocates are people that receive services and supports in the programs. And they go around and they're very active in the community. They come here to Montgomery. They advocate for services and supports and different things. She was super excited, and we were super excited because we felt like she was a great person to represent us for this year. Also, you see here, this is Miss Liz Cochran. She's a former Miss Alabama, competed in the Miss America pageant. She was one of the people that came down to the conference. When Liz was in the Miss America pageant, her platform was heart awareness and heart health, but she's recently gotten on the disability bandwagon, so I'm super excited about that. So every opportunity she can, she goes out and speaks on our behalf. So how can you help? We, as a nonprofit, of course, monetary donations are always needed, and kind donations, pens, paper, anything that you guys think that you couldn't use, we probably can use it. One big important need is always legislative advocacy. We always send people to go in and advocate for us, kind of let people know what we're doing, and we want to make sure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are included in everything. You can join as a member. Go to the Arc of Alabama's website, join, and you'll get our legislative newsletters, our regular newsletters. So that's important. Volunteer in the office, spread the word, and you can also join a local chapter and ask to be put on my board. So, all right, in closing, we have the Arc of the United States, the Arc of Alabama, the Arc of Georgia, and local chapters like the Arc of Clark County. We do advocacy for people as they call in. We do legislative advocacy, information, and referrals. We serve people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their caregivers. And in closing, I generally kind of close out my presentations with some kind of Gandhi, King, Mother Teresa quote. So wanted to mention that sometimes we think that poverty, we sometimes think that poverty is only being hungry, naked, and homeless. The poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for is the greatest poverty. And that's the kind of one of the things that North Alabama does is we advocate for people to be included. So I also have some legislative advocacy brochures up here. Some brochures for North Alabama, some T-shirts. They're size 3X. My interns call them nightgowns. So I wanted to give a fellow disability advocate some attention right now and thank him for his work that he's done. So here is you a cup from North Alabama.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Anyone have any questions?
I do. Can you show the map again where the chapters are? I'm just curious.
Dr. Lewis, they need your help.
You're doing good.
What? I did the live. I was going to see my hometown.
Yeah.
Okay. If you know someone that is interested, what's the best way? I know someone who has a child that meets this criteria, and she wants to get involved. And she's actually doing a race next weekend, but she really wants to get involved, and because she's passionate. Her child's under 2. So how could she get involved? She's in a white county, one that's not on the map there.
If I may ask, which county is it?
Clay.
Okay. Contact us. Contact my office. I can give you my card,
Okay.
and then we can discuss that. The ARC of Alabama is always able to help anybody throughout the state. We are looking to expand into the white counties, and I'm actually meeting with somebody in DC next week and kind of discussing what efforts we're going to take on the state level to expand into those counties.
She's doing a fundraiser next weekend. I just don't think she's affiliated with anyone, so it may be a great fit.
Yeah, sounds like a good opportunity. Thank you.
In one of the counties where you have chapters, how does someone become eligible for services?
To be eligible, well, they would really need to test out to be what we consider appropriate for services and support. But the wonderful thing about the what we're doing now in Alabama is if somebody can't get on the ID waiver, then they can go in and go in and work with the rehab services and attempt to maintain employment. So that's kind of like sometimes like the precursor for everything. But they would just call that office. A lot of it goes through an MRDD board for they're kind of the gatekeeper of some things.
Partnerships, Montgomery Center for Independent Living, are you familiar with them?
Not familiar.
Okay. I just wanted to, I saw some of the names of partnerships you had up there, and they are really in line with what you do. I just wonder how do people become partners with you with similar organizations?
Well, one reason I was brought into this position is they wanted the ARC of Alabama's profile to be raised. So that's something that I definitely am interested in, building new partnerships with people, because I understand partnerships, relationships is what helps, get things done. We have great relationships with the Department of Mental Health, also ADAP. So back in the day, ADAP has always been a powerhouse in Alabama. So on the advocacy and for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we're kind of the group that does that. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with ADAP, but they do wonderful work.
In one of your initial slides, you showed all the disabilities that qualify for aid. Is there any one particular disability or couple of disabilities that are more in need of services than others, or are they all equally?
That's a really good question. It depends upon the person, I guess you could say. All disabilities, need equal care. The ones that you, like fetal alcohol syndrome, that's preventable. So if we have more preventative programs, we'll cut down the rates of that. It's, when you see people that have physical disabilities, of course you automatically know that they're in need of something else. So it really depends on the person, because the needs are so unique and different. And my background, a lot of my background is mental health and substance use disorders. And the thing about, I can say from firsthand experience, is the needs of our population, our people here in this type of program is so far different than those other two groups. So it really is kind of a tricky question to directly answer.
Because when you do the test, you just sort of lump all disabilities in a need versus non-need basis. Do you think that's advantageous, or do you think it would be better to sort of delineate between the different disabilities?
Well, that's a really good question. One concern I always have for anybody that has a disability of this type is the appropriateness of care. And the Department of Mental Health just kind of monitors all of that, does a really good job. But each thing is just so unique, if that makes any sense. We have a lot of autism being diagnosed, and we wonder now, well, has autism been around all along? We've been diagnosing an ADHD or something else. So if this really requires a lot of people to be on board and really understand everything and have the training that they need. Any other questions?
Gena, thank you. We're committed to curing the scourge of polio from the face of the earth. So in your honor, we're going to make a small contribution to Polio Plus as our way of saying thanks for being here. So thank you so much for coming. We hope that you'll come back.